Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I am Agi Keramidas and my mission is to inspire you to grow, stand out and take action towards the next level of your life. I interview leaders, authors, successful entrepreneurs, spiritual teachers, exceptional people who will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week and make sure you subscribe to get them as soon as they are released. Welcome to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, episode 175. Today we'll speak about podcasting itself, and even more if you have ever thought of the idea of having your own podcast. This is going to be a very interesting episode. I will also share with you my new project, something that I have been working on for a while and I'm very excited about. And as a matter of fact, I'm sure that some of you listening will find that very interesting yourselves. So my new project, my new venture is helping coaches who are ready to increase their impact by launching and scaling their own top quality podcast, even if they aren't tech savvy and they are limited on time. And in this episode, I will discuss all of that. And before I do that, I will start with, as 𝗁 Sinek says, I will start with why. Why do I want to help coaches launch their podcast? You know, for me, the most impactful factor in my own personal development journey has been podcasting. It was podcasting. I went from an introvert to a speaker, and podcast was a great catalyst. First, it was a way of my self-expression. It started as a joyous exploration of something new, a hobby. I was curious and I wanted to express myself more. And then I have shared this in the past. Podcasting became my passion, and eventually it became a mission as a host of the podcast to inspire the listener to grow, to stand out, to take some action towards the next level of her or his life. And I have been in the coaching space since 2017, mostly being coached myself, but I also have coached others. And I see the amazing work that coaches do in order to help people. And I also see that they have their own blind spots, and sometimes they can't see the duty that we all have to make some impact, especially in these times that we live in. People who want to improve the life of others must do it. It's very important. So I think that the majority of people in the coaching space are people who want to make a positive difference in the world, to improve other people's lives. And I have found personally that having your own podcast is an outstanding way of doing it, of increasing your reach. I was reading something very interesting, that the average attention span nowadays is just 7 seconds. And when one wants to share the message, most social media platforms are offering the same thing. People have been conditioned to just mindless scroll with little to no learning to what they're doing. But these times, nowadays, more and more people are waking up and they are starting to seek content that it is thoughtful, that it is actionable, that can make a difference in their lives. And the podcast, compared to other media, is first of all very intimate. You are literally inside the ear of the listener. So it has been found that the podcast audience is much more engaged. As a matter of fact, 2 out of 3 listeners will listen to the whole episode of a podcast, provided, of course, they like the content. And another very interesting fact about podcasting in general is that, especially since 2020 and the global quarantining, the audio podcast consumption has grown 25% year by year, and there is a huge spike in listenership. And another very interesting thing is that our relatively few podcasts out there, and I will give you an example compared to, let's say, YouTube channels. So, for example, YouTube channels are about 40 million out there, whereas podcasts, there are less than 2.5 million. And if that still sounds like a very big amount, I will tell you that out of this 2.5 million, only 250,000 are active podcasts that are producing episodes, content consistently. So it is still not very populated out there, the podcasting space. And apart from that, and I think that this is really one of the best times to jump into the podcasting space, especially if you have been thinking about it. But I will mention some other advantages that, they come to my mind after all these years of my experience. And one of them is this ability to express yourself. And you also, apart from the creative part of it, yes, of course, you are also free to be creative, but also you have the freedom to share your opinion. And especially in this world of ever-increasing censorship, where you are not sure if what you will say will be cut down on or banned, podcasting has and always will have the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech. And sometimes I think of it as like the radio. It has this kind of magic. So if that's something that relates to you, I think that you would enjoy having your own podcast. And I have often been asked, what are the benefits of having your own podcast? And out of all the benefits that come to mind, the first of all is building your authority, increasing your impact, becoming the perceived expert in your field, the go-to person in your niche. You can take your brand with the podcast to expert positioning in your niche. And another benefit is that with the podcast, you reach a global audience, and there are over 115 million listeners in the USA alone. There are 16 million in the UK. And add on that the global listenership. And the interesting thing is that the listenership of podcasts is increasing year by year. It's steady. One other big benefit that comes to my mind is this opportunity to speak with extraordinary people, to expand your network and interview some inspiring, amazing individuals and gain information firsthand from them, distill their wisdom, ask for their stories, things that you can firsthand learn from them and use it to share with others. And yet another important thing about podcasting is that you build a relationship with your podcast listener. So you can reach someone with your own unique voice and with your own unique message. You can reach someone in a way that no one else could, because that person is aligned to the message. They listen to your podcast and they can benefit. So your ability to reach someone with your unique voice in a way that you can inspire them to take some action and change their life, that is for me something incredible, one of the most incredible feelings. And I could be talking about the benefits of having your own podcast for a long time, but I will share just one more and I will end with this. It's an obvious benefit. When you have your own podcast, as a coach specifically, you will get more followers, more fans, more customers. You can do your marketing or advertising on your podcast show, so you attract more business, more money in your business. And so now you may be thinking, oh wow, that all sounds fantastic, but if it is like that, how come everyone doesn't have a podcast? And I wanted to share some of my thoughts about the main pitfalls that people experience when they want to launch a podcast, especially when they do it on their own. So some things that I have learned after 3 years, 2 podcasts and over 250 episodes are that in order to create and launch your podcast and maintain your podcast, you need a lot of time. Podcasting takes a lot of time. And if you are willing to do it completely on your own, I would say at least from the time you want to launch it, it will take you at least 3 to 4 months before the launch to figure everything out, to prepare the podcast in a way that it's going to be well thought. And then the podcast itself, depending on what you do, if you interview people and so on, I would expect a good between 6 and 8 hours per episode in total work needed. And it might sound excessive, but believe me, it is not. I have timed myself. I'm not saying that every single episode will need 6 or 8 hours to produce and create. I'm saying it can take that. So it's not very far from the average it takes. And podcasting also does require some technical knowledge. It's not extremely complex, but it's not very easy either. And especially if you want to achieve high quality sound, it's difficult to do it on your own, to know all the nuances of sound editing and all these things that affect the sound quality. And yet another obstacle, and it can also be challenging, is when you try to choose the right kind of podcast for you that is aligned with your values and your why and your objectives and the people that you want to serve with your podcast. So these pitfalls are many times in the way of people actually launching their podcast from the moment they want to do it. So these are common obstacles that prevent someone from launching their podcast even though they had thought about it. And because I have traveled that journey myself, that's why I'm so excited to have this new business, this new venture launching, because I can guide and support you with all of that and so much more. So from the idea that I would like to have my own podcast, there will be a lot of unanswered questions. So from the stage that I want to have a podcast, there will be lots of unanswered questions between you and having that podcast, that it's actually a quality podcast and it's connecting with an audience. And I can help close that gap, that distance quickly, so that you can go from an uncertain, a vague, I know I want a podcast, but I don't know exactly what or how, to I actually have a podcast and it's functioning and top quality, and I'm creating a relationship with my listeners. And I can help you and do all this in 30 days, as short as 30 days if you want. So, if you're ready to increase your impact by launching and scaling your own podcast, even if you aren't tech savvy and are limited on time, I can certainly help with that. So, the link is, and I will put it in the show notes as well, the link is bit.ly/podcastpriority. And you can also find the information on my website, 𝗷𝗲𝗀𝗲𝗲𝗲. It is something that I'm very excited about, and I hope in this short episode I gave you some maybe information, some ideas, and hopefully even more some inspiration to be able to express yourself and share your message, share your voice, and make an impact, make an influence in people's lives, people who are looking for your message, people who would benefit from what you have to say, but because you're not sharing it, you're not reaching them and they can't be helped. So I hope you have had some ideas, some inspirations like that. Again, the link to find more information is bit.ly/podcastpriority, or go to my website 𝗷𝗲𝘀𝗲𝗲.com. I look forward to seeing some of you there and guiding you and supporting you to become podcasters yourselves. Until next time, stand out, don't fit in.